This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, big bailout. Ottawa is negotiating a $500 million deal to come to the aid of Nova Scotia Power. Accused in court. A man charged with killing a Kingston woman appears before a judge. And back at the track, drivers from the old Sackville Downs reunite at the Truro Raceway.
Late summer warmth continues across the province on Tuesday. Temperatures in the mid to high 20s, feeling even warmer. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. For years, we've been hearing about cost overruns and delays with the Muskrat Falls hydroelectricity plant in Labrador. That project's financial problems would have meant a 19% jump to your power bill here in this province. But now Ottawa says it is negotiating a $500 million bailout for Nova Scotia Power to help cushion the blow. The CBC's Taryn Grant explains.
The Muskrat Falls hydroelectric dam. It's been called a boondoggle because of time and cost overruns. It is now operating, and it's a major source of renewable energy for Nova Scotia. But during years of delays, Nova Scotia Power had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on other, more expensive fuels. Now Ottawa is stepping in to save Nova Scotia ratepayers from some huge energy bills.
The rate shock would have been up to 19% next year, which is big number. This essentially allows that to be smooth, so it's probably more like the rate of inflation. So it's much, much, much more affordable.
Ottawa will provide a loan of up to $500 million. They used the same tool to bail out Newfoundland and Labrador from the cost of Muskrat Falls. Nova Scotia Power and its customers will eventually have to pay the money back, but it will be over many years rather than all at once. It's a relief for the head of the power utility, who has been looking for help on this issue for a year.
And so we sat down with the provincial government, as I said, then we sat down with the federal government and looked at options of how could we make this more affordable for our customers, and the loan guarantee is the solution we came up with, and we're very pleased with that solution.
Over the last 2 years, there was a nearly 14% jump in energy rates. The utility won't say when the next rate increase is coming, but power rates will keep going up in the years ahead. Ottawa's bailout simply means that increases will be much smaller than they could have been. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
One of 4 teenagers accused of murder is trying to break away from the other 3. Ahmad Mahir Al-Marak was stabbed in a parking garage at the Halifax shopping centre back on April 22nd. He died later in hospital. 4 teens, 2 16-year-olds, a 14-year-old boy, and a 14-year-old girl have all been charged with second-degree murder. Today, lawyers for one of the 16-year-old boys was in court, arguing that he should have a separate trial. The judge has reserved her decision until next week. Still in the courts, the man accused of killing a 55-year-old woman from Kingston was before a judge this morning. Esther Jones was reported missing 2 weeks ago. As Nicholas Sagan tells us, her family says they know the man who has been charged.
Much of Esther Jones's large family showed up here at the Provincial Court in Kentville to support each other. They're remembering their sister, aunt, and friend, who RCMP say was murdered just weeks ago.
She was forever trying to make somebody else's life better. She would go down to the Veterans Wing and the Mayflower Wing, and she would play the piano and sing, and it just came from her heart.
Dale Allen Toole appeared in court, charged with first-degree murder in Jones's death. Jones's niece says Toole is a former in-law of multiple people in the family, but says the family believes Jones and Toole did not know each other.
It's definitely a shock. You never expect to have your family deal with a murder, especially that close when it's the murder of someone you know. It's very devastating.
55-year-old Jones was reported missing on Labor Day after she didn't show up to church. Her vehicle was then found abandoned. On Friday, RCMP announced Toole's arrest. He was on his way to Mexico when he was stopped in Texas, unrelated to the murder charge, but police didn't say why he was deported. He was then sent back to Toronto, where he was arrested upon landing. Police believe a struggle happened here at the Kingston Bible College. Jones was last seen here, and her body hasn't been found. Community members and family have been laying down these flowers and stuffed animals, commemorating Jones at the place she taught piano to children.
All of this stuff has given us strength and helps us to be able to put one step in front of the other without her.
Toole has been in trouble with the law in the past. In 2022, he was sentenced for assault with a weapon causing bodily harm. In 2017 and 2016, he was sentenced for impaired driving and public mischief. Toole is now likely applying for legal aid. He'll be back at the Provincial Courthouse here in Kentville on October 23rd. Nicola Sagan, CBC News, Kentville.
Tenants and landlords are continuing to speak out against the Houston government's decision not to create an enforcement unit to enforce the Residential Tenancies Act. Although that decision is not part of the changes being proposed in a bill before the legislature, some are using the Law Amendments Committee to express their frustration. Mark Culligan with the Dalhousie Legal Aid gave one example of a landlord who is demanding at least 3 months' rent before a lease is signed.
This is the kind of abuse for which we need a compliance and enforcement unit. If a landlord is caught doing this, putting in paper, sending it to students en masse, there should be consequences. Right now, we have no consequences. If an international student, if a vulnerable international student were to take this landlord to court, the remedy that they would get is the return of their 3-month security deposit or their 3 months rent in advance. This is insufficient.
Culligan says the province should do what was recommended by the firm hired to lay out creating an enforcement unit. Ryan Snoddon with us now on a day where late summer continues to punch well above its weight, doesn't it?
Yeah, feeling more like August than September, Tom. Thank you so much as we, again, are looking at more of this to come over the next 2 days in particular. As you can see, high temperatures today, 27 at Antigonish, 28 Sheet Harbor. Again, really, really warm. Now, moving forward, we're looking at, more of the same with a westerly flow that's going to continue to move in these very mild temperatures for this time of year. And in fact, for Tuesday, we're talking about a touch of humidity in the air. It's going to be feeling even warmer, more widespread temperatures in the 25, 26, 27, 28 range out there. You can see 26 across Cape Breton for tomorrow, but it's going to be feeling more like the low, edging into the mid 30s across the province for Tuesday. So that's some good news there. Now, as we look at Wednesday time frame, we're going to still hang on to the warm temperatures, but we're going to cloud up a little bit with some increasing clouds, but still fine weather overall. That front is going to be a little bit of a shock to us late week. Tom, we'll talk more about that with your 7-day. Still to come.
We want all the details. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
The family of a firefighter who died after a critical accident at Nova Scotia's only firefighter training school says they're appalled to learn new details about the school's safety practices. Skylar Blackie died in 2019 due to a safety failure. But according to a report from this March, the safety issues continued as recently as this year. Shayna Luck has the details.
They said they needed to make those changes and they're still not making them.
The family of firefighter Skylar Blackie examined a third-party report conducted in March on the Nova Scotia Firefighters School. They lost him in 2019 after the expired fire extinguisher he was using during a training exercise exploded. The school admitted to numerous safety failures. CBC obtained a report from an inspection this year showing the same type of failures. The family is appalled.
I was expecting, obviously, quite a few infractions. I didn't think one of the top ones would be exactly the problem that took my brother's life. That is just so disheartening.
This report identified gaps in the process to remove out-of-service items from use, along with more than 20 other deficiencies. On Friday, after I asked the school for an interview, it released a statement on Facebook. It said it's improved policies, but offered few specifics. The Blackie family believe better provincial laws to regulate firefighter training are needed and say they have no confidence in the director or board of the fire school.
This report had to spell that out to them. I would have thought that would have jumped right off the page day one.
Blackie's former department has not sent anyone to the fire school since the accident.
You know, one of the biggest things that stood out for me was that these things are still happening after 5 years.
Blackie's family says he fought to improve conditions for other firefighters, which is why they continue to speak out about the issue.
Firefighters and the public deserve better than the fire school. We deserve a safe training facility under proper management, and we need to work in a combined effort to make that happen.
Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
The U.S. Coast Guard inquiry into the implosion of the Titan submersible last year is now underway. Officials hope to uncover the facts surrounding the tragic incident and come up with recommendations to prevent similar events from happening in the future. So far, it's been revealed that someone on the vessel reported all was well before it imploded, killing all 5 people on board. A massive search and rescue effort involving 4 countries was launched when the Titan went missing. Debris containing presumed human remains was recovered days later. The disaster sparked a debate about safety and regulation in private undersea exploration. The company that built the sub, OceanGate, has faced questions about design choices and safety measures. Several former OceanGate employees and marine safety experts are slated to testify over the next 2 weeks. There is more trouble with the ferry service that runs between PEI and Nova Scotia. The MV Confederation hit the wharf yesterday in Wood Island's PEI and has been taken out of service. The company says fixing the damage from that hit won't be quick or easy. Carrie Campbell has the latest.
The Confederation spent today in port. Late yesterday afternoon, passengers had just been told to head back to their vehicles to get ready to disembark when the ferry struck the wharf in Wood Islands hard enough to leave this gash in the hull.
We got the call to go down to our cars, and we were just kind of walking between cars, and all of a sudden when it hit, I kind of flew into a van that was not far from our car, just due to the impact.
Crew members told passengers they couldn't open the front door of the ferry, so had to turn the ship around, and drivers had to back out. You can see a big dent in the bow of the Confederation today. Northumberland Ferries issued a press release this morning saying that there were issues with the forward propeller meant to slow the ship down. It said repairs will take at least a week or 2. Customers who had reservations booked through September 29th will be offered refunds or asked to choose alternate dates. Late this afternoon, the company said the ferry could head to a shipyard tomorrow and said the damage is considerable, that it will not be a quick or simple repair. This leaves only the Surima in service, with 4 scheduled return trips to Nova Scotia daily. For some tourists and other drive-up traffic, it meant a longer wait and a bigger chance they'd get left behind because of a full ferry.
Someone else that was camping said instead of driving back to our next campsite, take the ferry. So here we are.
And there's the ferry, but this one's not going to work for you.
No, I know. So we're in line. Hopefully we'll get on to the 3:30.
But for some businesses, this will cost them money. This trucking company had 3 trucks booked on the Confederation for 7 o'clock this morning. Instead, 2 trucks took the longer, costlier route across the bridge, and 1 truck stayed put. Taking the ferry back from Nova Scotia today also wasn't an option over concerns the Surima might get stranded because of high winds.
It's boiling down to that you got to charge more, and then the farmer on the other end and everybody else, they buying gravel or whatever, they can only you can only afford so much too, and it's definitely need the service here, and we need a good service.
2 years ago, the Holiday Island caught fire. It's now been scrapped. Another replacement ferry, the Fanafjord, was supposed to enter service this summer, but it's still in Norway. A brand new ferry is still in the design phase and won't be delivered before 2028. CBC has asked multiple times to speak with Federal Transportation Minister Pablo Rodriguez, but he has not been made available.
Personally, I really enjoy taking the ferry. It's seeming not as reliable as it should be.
Northumberland Ferry said a more detailed timeline to repair the Confederation will likely be available by the end of this week. There's no word on whether the wharf itself was damaged. The company said the current reduced ferry schedule will likely remain in place until Confederation is fixed. Kerry Campbell, CBC News, Wood Islands.
Members of the union representing workers with Halifax Public Libraries have accepted a new collective agreement ending a nearly month-long strike. The Nova Scotia Union of Public and Private Employees Local 14 issued a statement on Sunday saying the majority of its membership voted to accept the agreement. That means library branches will reopen later this week. The union did not share details of the agreement. Hockey superstar Sidney Crosby turned 37 last month, and many hockey fans are wondering how many years he might have left in the NHL. Well, today, the Cole Harbour Superstore signed a 2-year contract extension with the Pittsburgh Penguins that will expire in the spring of 2027. The new deal will see him get paid $8.7 million per season, the same amount he's made for each of the last 11 seasons. Crosby has captained Pittsburgh to 3 Stanley Cup championships and is a 2-time Olympic champion. He won numerous awards in his career, including being named NHL MVP twice. It was a sunny Sunday at the Truro Raceway yesterday, where drivers from the old Sackville Downs were competing. Luke Ettinger was there for the first reunion since the harness racing track closed in 1986.
I love it.
It's unbelievable. Like I've met people that I haven't seen for 30-some years. And it's just going to be a great day. There's going to be a lot of old faces seeing each other. And as you notice, I got a name tag on. All of us old guys are putting name tags on so we know who each other is when we see them. There's a list in there on the board, if you want to take a look at it, of people that were at Sackville Downs that have passed. And there's, I think, about 55 to 60 names on that. Now, grant you, there's people that we have missed that aren't on the list, but we apologize for that because you just can't remember everybody.
This is a horse called Philly's Boy. He hasn't raced much. He's a 6-year-old, but he's only raced like 4 or 5 times. People don't know how good a sport it is. You know, it's family-oriented and, you know, a lot of fun. Today will be my last drive.
How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I quit 2 years ago, so I wasn't expecting this one.
I raced in Sackville when it started when I was 18 years old, and I raced there till its closing date, and then I kind of moved on to Moncton, and then moved on to Truro, and I'm still racing a little bit. It's a big turnout. I look for a big turnout. It's a beautiful day here today, and people have been coming in the last 2 days, people from Ontario that raced in Sackville, and the States that raced in Sackville. So it's going to be a real exciting day, I think.
As we head to break, a look out the Halifax Harbour. Pretty nice day. Been that kind of September for sure. Ryan back with all your weather details right after this. All right, we are back and checking the calendar. We are in September.
Yeah.
But boy, what a run we've been on, because it feels a lot more like August, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Yesterday was fantastic. I mean, both days this weekend were great, but Saturday had that fall feel with that, northerly wind. But yesterday was just terrific.
It sure was.
And today was obviously phenomenal as well. Tomorrow's going to be a great day. We'll cloud up a little bit Wednesday, but as I said, we're hanging on to the warmth. So I do say that there'll be a few folks checking out places like this.
Hell, why not?
Yeah.
It's beach weather still, isn't it?
It certainly is. Lockport. Beautiful shot here, and yeah, that beach, I would say we'll have some folks on it tomorrow. If you're lucky enough to have tomorrow off, or even Wednesday, good for you. It is definitely going to be great. Now we'll look at the temperatures right now. Again, onshore winds keeping temps a bit cooler into the teens there along that South Shore region. We're still in the 24-25 range from Cape Breton up and across the Northumberland shore. Now you can see the winds. They've been a little on the breezy side today, sustained in the 20, even 30 kilometer per hour range at times, 44 at last check at Sydney. So the winds are certainly a factor there. Not too gusty though. We're looking at some gusts in around the 30 to 35 kilometer per hour range. Now the dew point, thought I had retired this graphic for the season. Typically, we don't talk a lot about the dew point, but it will be moving up the scale. Already comfortable, noticeable for most of the province, but we are going to be edging up into the 17, 18 range. It will be feeling humid, particularly as we move into Wednesday, and then for Thursday, we're going to kind of see this frontal boundary off to the north, sinking south and resetting things. Now, off to the south, we're watching a tropical disturbance backing into the Carolinas. And again, this high, so many times we're talking about the blocking high over the North Atlantic, right? And a low that's sitting and spinning over us, not allowing things to move. Well, this is a blocking high for us, and it is just sitting and spinning and allowing us these fair skies, and this is the low that is stuck off to the south currently, raining itself out over the Carolinas with some heavy rainfall. Note temperatures, cooler there in that pocket, but overall the warm-up is on across the eastern half of North America, cooler air wrapping in on the backside of that next frontal boundary, which we will be tracking. Overnight lows tonight, for the most part, ranging between 13 and 16. It'll be milder across Cape Breton tonight. Temperatures in the high teens, maybe even a few spots. As you saw there, overnight lows near 18, 19. As we turn the page into tomorrow morning, some fog patches, they'll be a hit and miss, but certainly the possibility of that for your Tuesday morning commute. Then, yes, a terrific day for tomorrow. Hardly a cloud in the sky yet again. A few clouds into the mix for tomorrow evening, which will be a notable one with a full moon, partial lunar eclipse, and a supermoon. All happening tomorrow night. We'll talk more about that here on the program tomorrow night. As you can see, 23 to 26 across Cape Breton tomorrow. Good shot at 30 tomorrow across the Northumberland shore. Antigonish, one of the best spots, possibilities for that. As we move into the west, you can see temperatures will be cooler in those onshore winds, but widespread temps will be feeling, widespread temps in the 27-28 range, feeling into the low 30s. Similar story for Wednesday. Beautiful day. We will be seeing some increase in clouds, as we said, on Wednesday, thanks to, it's just some high cloud starting to fan its way in. And then there's that front that's going to be moving south as we move throughout Thursday, and that will shift our winds to northerly. We will likely see a bit of a temperature drop Thursday afternoon, depending on the timing of that front. More seasonable temps for Friday, and just a little bit of an onshore northerly flow, keeping some shower chances in the mix, and temperatures certainly resetting as we move into the latter half of the week. Tom?
You're not off tomorrow by any chance, are you, Ryan?
Yeah, no, planning to be here. Yeah, but maybe an extended walk at lunch.
Yeah, you and me both. Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, the House of Commons resumes with the clock ticking on the minority Liberal government. And I will speak with the Federal Minister of Energy and Natural Resources about the decision to bail out Nova Scotia Power. Ottawa is negotiating a $500 million bailout for Nova Scotia Power to help cover higher costs resulting from the delayed delivery of electricity from Muskrat Falls hydroelectric plant in Labrador. The federal minister responsible says the money will be used to prevent a 19% spike in electricity rates for Nova Scotians. Jonathan Wilkinson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, thanks for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Why should taxpayers be part of this bailout?
Well, the project was one, as you will know, that started a number of years ago. It ran into a number of delays, and the government of Newfoundland and Labrador actually asked the federal government to assist them with ensuring that it didn't fall squarely on the backs of ratepayers. Nova Scotia was part of this through the Maritime Link, and of course the delays affected Nova Scotia Power too. They have asked us for help to ensure that there was not a rate shock for consumers here in Nova Scotia. And in the context of the work that we're trying to do to build a grid that is going to be non-emitting but is also affordable for consumers, the federal government accepted that that is something that we wanted to work with Nova Scotia on.
There will still be a rate impact of some effect, though, won't there?
There will. The rate shock would have been up to 19% next year, which is big number. This essentially allows that to be smooth, so it's probably more like the rate of inflation. So it's much, much, much more affordable.
And so how will it work? What are the terms of repayment? What will taxpayers or ratepayers be on the hook for here?
So the way in which this is developed is they've effectively accrued a liability, and this liability has to get paid out over a period of time. This gives them a way to restructure it and to pay it out over a much longer period of time. We're still negotiating the details of exactly how that's going to work, but I would say that it's over 15, 20 years, not one. So.
And why are you still negotiating? How come this is not a done deal at this point so people will have absolute certainty?
Well, we've been working for a number of months. As you will know, Premier Houston made the request a few months ago, and we've been working on that with Premier Houston, but also with Nova Scotia Power. We provided a term sheet, and we're just essentially finalizing the term sheet. I don't expect that there's an enormous number of things that we're going to be negotiating, but we're not quite done yet.
Okay. What are the lessons learned of all of this? Given the Muskrat Falls, the problems that project fell into, the great hope that it offered at one point, and it didn't quite pan out, obviously, the way that people wanted it to. Is there any lesson learned here at all?
Well, it's not just Muskrat Falls. I mean, with these large-scale projects, particularly hydroelectric projects, I think we've seen challenges with respect to being on time, on budget. So Site C in British Columbia is not much different from Muskrat Falls in terms of some of those challenges. And I do think that utilities who may be thinking about, additional large-scale projects like that do have to look at some of the things that actually transpired and take those into account on a go-forward basis. But I would also say that increasingly, we're actually moving away from these kinds of large-scale projects, partly because most of the big rivers have been dammed in this country by now. And we are moving far more towards things like renewables generation from wind, solar, geothermal, and other things, including offshore wind here in Nova Scotia, which are much more distributed, smaller scale, and projects are actually much easier to manage. So.
Well, given Nova Scotia Power's performance in this, as minister, how much confidence do you have in that utility moving forward?
Well, look, I've been in this job now 2.5 years, 3 years almost, and my interactions with Nova Scotia Power have always been very positive and very constructive, very professional. My interactions with the government of Nova Scotia has always been very professional. I think that the project management on this is something that everybody's going to have a look at where some of these things went astray. But by and large, the challenges that Nova Scotia Power faced actually were with some of the things on the Newfoundland Labrador side. It wasn't really Nova Scotia Power's issue in terms of some of the problems that arose.
And so this deal comes into effect. Will come into effect pretty soon. There'll be relief for the utility, and as you would hope and suggest, there will be less of a rate increase for users. Is that happening in time for the fall or spring financial year?
Yeah, so I mean, the Nova Scotia Power had to go to the regulator quite soon, and so it was part of the urgency of getting some kind of a deal done. is trying to ensure that when they go to the regulator, they actually have in place this kind of new financial arrangement which allows the regulator to agree to a certain set of rates going forward. So I would expect that we will finalize this agreement in the next few weeks, and Nova Scotia Power will be going to the regulator very soon thereafter.
Mr. Minister, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up, protecting Donald Trump. New security questions emerge in the wake of this weekend's assassination attempt at his Florida golf course. Welcome back. MPs have returned to Parliament Hill for the fall sitting, and the temperature is rising. Now that the Liberals' deal with the NDP is off, the government could fall at any time. And as Ashley Burke reports, parties are preparing for a heated political fight.
MPs are back, and it's every party for itself. Why not let Canadians choose a common sense conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime now?
He doesn't care about Canadians. He just cares about himself and his own political interests.
Now that the NDP's deal with the Liberals is dead, the gloves are off.
And as soon as hard things got hard, they turned tail and ran, Mr. Speaker. Wanted to avoid the criticisms of the mean old Conservatives and tried to save themselves.
I've ripped up
the Liberals releasing a new video to try and take down their former partner, Jagmeet Singh.
There is zero chance that the NDP is ever going to listen to Pierre Poilievre. He's a goon.
Singh facing questions about why he's now distancing himself from Trudeau's carbon tax that he voted for.
It's clear that he's too beholden to corporate interests to do what's necessary, so we're going to fight back.
Fight, the key theme today, as the temperature in the House turned up after Pierre Poilievre once again called for an election.
What I heard yesterday from Mr. Poilievre was so over the top, so irresponsible, so immature, and something that only a fraudster would do.
The Liberals now trying to shape the agenda by introducing new mortgage rules, raising the cap on insured mortgages from $1 million to $1.5 million.
Putting the dream of homeownership in reach for younger Canadians.
The Conservatives fired back and took aim at the finance minister.
She's lost her job responsibilities. She's lost her credibility. How long will the phantom finance minister endure this humiliation?
Mr. Speaker, I am not going anywhere. Why the Conservatives prefer to focus on personal mudslinging and attacks rather than to actually talk about the economy.
In this unstable environment, the government could fall at any time if there's a non-confidence vote.
We are playing chicken with 4 cars. Eventually, one will hit another one, and there will be a wreckage.
It felt like the opening day of an election campaign. All of the parties are off to the races, and tonight's dual by-elections could shake up the dynamics in the House of Commons even more. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
As you heard on this first day of the fall session of Parliament, the Liberals have announced changes to mortgage rules. All first-time homebuyers will soon be eligible for a 30-year mortgage.
This really is about fairness for every generation. It's about making that first home more available for young Canadians, for first-time home buyers.
It expands the 30-year amortization to include first-time buyers of any type of home, as well as anybody buying a newly built home. The Liberal government is also raising the level for insured mortgages, making it move from $1 million to $1.5 million. It will allow more people to qualify for a mortgage with a down payment of less than 20%. The changes take effect on December the 15th. Voters are going to the polls today in key federal by-elections in Manitoba and Quebec. One is in Winnipeg, in the NDP stronghold of Elmwood-Transcona. New Democrats could face a close race with Conservatives there. The other by-election is in Montreal, in the riding of LaSalle-Verdun, and it has been held by the Liberals since 2015. They're facing a challenge from the Bloc Québécois. The Liberals lost a key stronghold to the Conservatives in Toronto by-election in June. The suspect in an apparent assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump has been charged with a number of gun crimes. Additional and more serious charges are expected as the FBI and Secret Service investigations continue. Richard Madden has the latest.
Driver, take 2 steps to your right.
New police body cam video shows the moment suspect Ryan Ruth was apprehended and later charged in connection with the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. The 58-year-old now faces charges of a possession of a firearm by convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. He's reportedly not being cooperative. Now, authorities are praising a witness who spotted Ruth in the bushes outside the Trump International Golf Club, took down his license plate number as he drove away. Police pulled him over without incident.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
But some key questions remain. Did the suspect act alone? How did a convicted felon get access to a gun? And how did the suspect, who doesn't live in Florida, no Trump would be golfing that day since he didn't release a public schedule.
How does a guy from not here get all the way to Trump International, realize that the president, former president of the United States, is golfing, and he's able to get a rifle in that vicinity? I think that's the question the FBI, the Secret Service are laser focused on today.
While officials have yet to give a motive, Trump blamed the violence on rhetoric from President Biden and Vice President Harris. But Biden condemned the political violence and urged Congress to give Trump more security detail.
America suffered too many times the tragedy of an assassin's bullet. It solves nothing and just tears the country apart.
Now, Congress is already investigating Trump's last attempted assassination. The Secret Service will likely face harsh scrutiny. Now, separately, Trump is still planning to hold a rally later this week in Long Island, New York, where security is expected to be very high. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
The second round of hearings into foreign meddling in Canada's elections is underway. This portion of the inquiry will focus on what the government can do to prevent it.
While the Commission has thus far focused on the past, the hearings we are about to embark on will be more about the present and the future.
Initial phase of the inquiry determined that it is possible there was foreign interference in a small number of ridings, but it didn't affect the overall election results. This phase of the inquiry is expected to hear from more than 70 witnesses over the next 5 weeks, including MPs, cabinet ministers, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. A former high-ranking member of the Canadian military has been found not guilty of sexual assault in a civilian court. Retired Vice Admiral Hayden Edmondson was accused of raping a woman while they were deployed together back in 1991. It is one of the first cases of military sexual assault to be transferred to the civilian justice system. Kayla Hounsell reports from Ottawa.
After being twice delayed because the judge needed more time, the verdict is in. Retired Vice Admiral Hayden Edmondson has been found not guilty of all charges, 1 count of sexual assault and 1 count of committing indecent acts. Edmondson was charged in 2021.
I cried. It's a massive emotional outpouring because this has been hanging over our heads for over 3 years.
Stephanie Vio, who asked for a publication ban on her name to be lifted, told the court she was just 19 when Edmondson first exposed himself to her, and she testified later raped her in his sleeping quarters. Edmondson testified he has never had any kind of sexual contact with Stephanie Vio. The judge said there were issues with her credibility, and that while her story was not impossible, it was also not probable.
That was hard for me to hear, but I don't regret bringing this complaint forward.
Edmondson was just one of several high-ranking members of the Canadian military to be accused of sexual misconduct in 2021. It prompted the federal government to appoint former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour to conduct an external review of the scandal. She released a damning report the following year in 2022, and the core recommendation of that report was that cases of sexual assault in the Canadian military be transferred to the civilian justice system. Edmondson testified he was directed to retire as a result of these charges after nearly 40 years in the Canadian military. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Ottawa.
The worst flooding in at least 2 decades is being blamed for more than a dozen deaths in Central Europe. Nearly a week of heavy rain has pushed water levels to extremes from Austria to Romania. In Poland, officials say the worst flooding is in the southwestern part of the country near the border with the Czech Republic. In one town, a hospital was evacuated with patients being taken away in rafts. The Polish government is working with the European Union to coordinate aid across the border. Czech officials are tallying the damage as the waters start to recede. As much as 2 meters of water rushed through the streets in some areas, and cleanup efforts are underway in Romania. But many areas across the region are bracing for more heavy rains in the coming days. A new study indicates that artificial intelligence can help improve medical care. A team of researchers in Toronto found that a so-called early warning app led to a dramatic drop in unexpected patient deaths. Lauren Pelly has more.
What if artificial intelligence could predict when someone's about to die?
I'm seeing that there's a chart watch alert for the patient in the room down the hall saying that they're at high risk of having a deterioration.
Dr. Amal Verma helped develop that early warning system. It monitors all the changes in a patient's medical record to spot signs of danger.
So a patient's vital signs, their heart rate, their blood pressure.
Healthcare workers at this Toronto hospital are using the technology to find out fast when patients are suddenly getting sicker.
Is this his monitor here?
This longtime nurse says it flagged one patient's early blood work results, showing an animal bite had quietly caused a potentially life-threatening infection.
White count was way above what it normally is, and so we were able to then address that right away.
A new study in the Canadian Medical Association journal shows the tool led to a striking 26% drop in the number of unexpected patient deaths.
We're glad to see that we're saving lives.
The researchers say the system helps staff provide treatment sooner and also palliative care when patients are beyond saving. It's not a replacement for clinical care or staff, but acts like another pair of eyes as hospitals face high levels of burnout and staff shortages.
And that's saving a lot of time, it's easing a lot of stress, and we're hoping more and more of these solutions will be able to be deployed.
Healthcare AI tools are getting a lot of buzz. Some research teams say machine learning can detect cancer earlier or speed up drug discovery, but the bold promises don't always pan out.
It's important to know that in healthcare we need to develop AI tools carefully.
Experts say what's exciting about the Toronto research is that it's helping real patients right now.
I thought this paper was a really interesting real-world study of trying modern predictive artificial intelligence techniques.
The team now wants to replicate their results elsewhere in hopes of bringing this new AI technology outside the walls of this hospital to help more patients across the country. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Reliable access to clean drinking water has been an issue for many First Nations residents, despite government initiatives meant to address the problem. One community in southern Ontario is tired of waiting and is taking the federal government to court. Jayla Bernstein reports.
My people do not deserve this kind of treatment. It's time.
The elected chief of Six Nations is fed up.
No one outside the community gives a damn. If they did, I wouldn't be here.
She says about 8,500 people in her community can't drink their tap water. After years of waiting for action, they're preparing to sue the federal government.
We have to go to the courts to finally get something done.
Six Nations of the Grand River is not remote. It's 30 minutes from Brantford and Hamilton. It even has its own water treatment plant. So why do most people not trust their tap water here?
Everything really boils down to money, to me. Like, it's not just the funding that they provide now that's not enough. It's the funding they didn't provide 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago.
A decade ago, the federal government helped pay to build this plant. But Public Works says there's never been enough money to cover the cost of sending that water throughout its community. That leaves 70% of homes on reserve without access to a water main. Indigenous Services Canada says it's invested $41 million to ensure all residents of Six Nations have access to safe drinking water, either through piped connections to their homes, truck delivery to cisterns, or fill stations located throughout the community. This is what that looks like. When people's water runs out, they drive here to fill up, or they pay for delivery trucks. Some have wells, but most are contaminated and unsafe. It's a patchwork system that comes with risk.
Can we guarantee that, well water is safe, or what they're doing with the water from that truck fill, what the container they're putting it in, and how they're connecting it to their home and using it? No, we can't.
The federal government says there is a need for transformational change and touts its proposed First Nations Clean Water Act as a solution. But that bill hasn't been passed, and the community is tired of waiting. They hope the courts will be their answer. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Six Nations of the Grand River.
It is tempting to ask for the day off tomorrow, though, isn't it? Or maybe the day after that.
Yeah.
What a run we're on. September. Loving it.
It's phenomenal, really. And we're going to be seeing definitely temperatures well above where they should be for this time of year tomorrow. And we'll soak it up, right? It's this time of year, summer, we all know it's fleeting. And so we're
stealing a few more days.
Stealing a few more days, for sure. Have a look at this picture, our viewer picture of the day. And as we zoom in, yes, of course, a beautiful spot, Kingsport in the Canning area. And
been to that beach before?
Absolutely,
it's a beauty.
It certainly is. Blair McLeod, thank you so much. 3 fishermen there. Hopefully they had some luck. And yes, a little rainbow off in the distance. Love that. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. Great day tomorrow in Kingsport. All through the valley. Temperatures will likely be in the 27, maybe 28 range. We'll be, looking at, I think, some of the warmest temps, certainly away from that onshore flow there along the Atlantic coastline, but it is going to be just terrific. Wednesday, similar story. Bit more cloud cover in the mix on Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud, but it is, again, going to be just a really, really nice day for this time of year. So there's Tuesday. You can see hardly a cloud in the sky. Wednesday, a little more white starting to filter its way in. That's high cloud cover first, then that cloud cover will thicken up into Thursday, which looks like a mostly cloudy day. Going to be timing out that front, Tom. It will be sinking from north to south, a wind shift with that, but it looks like it's going to be late enough in the day that it will be, dropping temps a little bit into the afternoon. And that low off to the south does look set to stay there, so that's some good news there. But we will see some showers in the mix.
All right, it's all looking pretty good. Thanks, Ryan. Well, just in time for the Halloween season, the London Dungeon has opened up its collection to celebrate its 50th anniversary. Creepy, huh? The public is being invited to view the many spooky, weird, and wonderful objects in their archives. Some used to recreate, gory and gruesome historical events, with Jack the Ripper and Sweeney Todd using gallows humor.
The collection also features a Victorian dentistry kit, complete with the barbaric-looking tools and supplies. Specks of dry blood still on them.
Looking a little real, huh?
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.